Morning, how are you? Seems like I have some poor lighting today, but it's good to be with you. It's been a while since we've talked, and I try not to do too much during the winter because winter is not a good time for me. My nasal passages always have my nose running. I'm always sniffling, so the weather doesn't do right by me, and spring usually doesn't either because of my allergies. But the unction of the Lord has brought me back, so let's talk. Today I'd like to talk to you about language in text, context, or in culture to go along with what we're doing in this study today. I noticed that a lot of times people like to contradict us and say, when did Jesus say he was God? Or how did Jesus ever say he was God? And the thing about it is that when you ask that question in the modern text, you'll never find it because in the Eastern days, you wouldn't dare say that. But in those modern ancient days in the East, you would say, if you would say, I am the Son of God, they would equivalate that with declaring yourself to be equal to God or being God. And you would get stoned. There's no way around it. Being an ex-Muslim, I know that even the Muslims know this. But they continue to try to use that question as a way to show that Christianity is false, which then shows hypocrisy in their own faith because they know no man can consider themselves to be the Son of God without making themselves equal to God or, in sense, declaring themselves to be God. So they try to set a stumbling block before the preacher. Even the Jews knew this. Even the Jews know this. That if a man declares himself to be the Son of God, he is declaring himself to be equal to and God. Period. There's no ways around it. And today I'm going to show you that and prove that through the scriptures. So the study of today starts in the book of John, and we're going to go to chapter 8, verse 56. I'm going to read 56 through 59. So let us begin. Oh, and blessings unto you and your house. Thanks for joining me. Jesus said, your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day. He saw it and was glad. Then said the Jews unto him, thou art not yet 50 years old. Hast thou seen Abraham? It's weird they said 50, as if Abraham was alive only 50 years ago. Jesus said unto them, verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was I am. Was I am. See, the Jews know that God, when he sent Moses to them, and he said, who should I say sent to them? Sent me, he said, say, I am. I am that I am sent me. I am for short. It's an abbreviated version of God's name. So when Jesus said, before Abraham was, I am, he was declaring himself to be God. See, now, what you have to understand is in the modern terms, in modern days, they know this. Even in media and entertainment, they know this. So they like to use the word I am a lot. Look at some commercials. Look at some shows. They say I am. They have a commercial basically that just says it through the whole commercial. I am. I am this. I am that. They're calling themselves God, and you don't even know it because you don't understand the old language. They do. Verse 59, then they took up stones to cast at him. But Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple, going through the midst of them, and so passed by. He made himself almost unseeable and passed through the middle of the crowd. without being touched. That's power. And that's something only God can do. For even Stephen got stoned for preaching the gospel. He couldn't escape the crowd. Peter was killed. He couldn't escape the crowd. Paul couldn't escape the crowd. Had to be brought back to life. The next chapter we're going to go to, the next chapter we're going to go to is John chapter 8, verse 24. And in chapter 8, verse 24, let's start at 23. Jesus, and he said unto them, Ye are from beneath, I am from above. Ye are of this world, I am not of this world. I said therefore unto you, that ye shall die in your sins. For if ye believe not that I am He, ye shall die in your sins. Again, in verse 28, same chapter, then Jesus said unto them, When ye have lifted up the Son of Man, then shall ye know that I am He. And I do nothing of myself, but as the Father hath taught me, I speak these things. See, the I am part is the part that describes himself as God. And then when he says, I am He, you realize that the He is God. Simple enough. Because He is actually a breath taken. It's a word in Hebrew as well that actually leads back to God. That breath, that it leads back to God. Because that's part of the name in Yahweh or Yad-Heh, Vav-Heh. See, these are things you need to understand and know as a Christian. Because people will try to condemn you for your faith. And I don't say you have to even defend your faith. But if you are that soldier that will not idly sit by and let somebody attack your father and call your father a liar, and you want to be able to pinpoint and show where it's said, these are good points. Now, if we go to John chapter 10, verse 30. John chapter 10, verse 30. Sorry for moving out of the camera or whatever, but it's not about me, so this is about the word. In John chapter 10, verse 30, Jesus said, I and my Father are one. There's the equivalence already. They're one. They're the same. Then the Jews took up stones again to stone him. Again. But this time Jesus did not camouflage himself and move through the mist. This time Jesus answered them and said, Many good works have I showed you from my Father. For which of those works do ye stone me? So for what work have I done causes you to want to stone me? Why do you want to stone me with all the good works that I have shown you? The Jews answered him, saying, For good work we stone thee not, but for blasphemy. See, even the Jews and the Muslims know that in their culture it is blasphemy to consider thyself the Son of God. So let's read that again. The Jews answered him, saying, For a good work we stone thee not, but for blasphemy, because thou being a man makest thyself God. See, when you faced with these modern people talking about when did Jesus say, he clearly said it multiple times. But if you do not open up your ears, use your mind, or find out the cultural context of which these things were done or said, it will lead you to believe that he never said it. But he said it. He declared himself. And finally, John chapter 5, verse 18. Therefore, the Jews sought the more to kill him, because not only had, let me do that again. Therefore, the Jews sought the more to kill him, because he not only had broken the Sabbath, but said also that God was his Father, making himself equal with God. I just wanted to let that sink in for a second. So even if there's a Christian pastor who tells you, oh, Jesus never said it, he's a liar. Get out of that church. If your pastor tells you Jesus never declared himself God, get out of that church. Your pastor is a liar. Any Christian who would say that Jesus never said that he was God or equivalated himself with God is a liar or knows not their Bible. Get away. Let them be accursed. Maranatha. Separate yourself from them. Because they deny the one thing about God that you cannot deny if you're a Christian, because if you do, it is Antichrist. God, Jesus, is divine, a deity. Jesus' name means God saves. And they called him Emmanuel, God with us. That means God is in the flesh. And this is how you know that the disciples believed he was Emmanuel, because John opened up the book first and said, in the beginning was the Word. The Word is God. The Word is Jesus. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. These are facts. You go to Genesis, the creation story, God did everything, created everything with his word. He didn't have to stretch his hand forth and do anything. The works he did to create the world was with his word. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehendeth it not. See, later you find out that Jesus left his divinity. He took it off, left that spirit up there, became flesh, and came down and dwelt on earth as man, so he could suffer as man, but yet live a perfect life. See, because there's no sacrifice that you can do with a blemished creature. Blemished creatures cannot be sacrificed unto God for sin, because there is no atonement for sin without the shedding of blood. So God made himself man and sacrificed himself, the perfect sacrifice, so that there be no need for any other, just a sacrifice of your sins and belief in God, belief in his Son. For God, Jesus said, if you believe in him, then you believe in the Father. Him and the Father are one. Jesus is God. Shalom. Peace. Be blessed. Have a great day.